The episode begins with a group of people running out of the subway in terror. Meanwhile, inside the subway, there's a confrontation between the Avengers and an evil organization known as the Serpent Society, who have held a few individuals hostage. Just as a battle is about to ensue, they are stopped by Antman, who is against all the violence and tries to convince both sides to talk it out instead of fighting. He tells the Avengers that the Serpent Society members, including King Cobra, were once his patients, so he intends to convince them. However, King Cobra is not in the slightest way interested in talking things out. Rather, he informs Ant-Man that Madam Viper and Hydra will be here to back them up soon. Sadly, King Cobra is unaware that Hydra has already been destroyed, while Madam Viper is now under the custody of S.H.I.E.L.D., but Hawkeye informs him about their situation. But King Cobra is skeptical, as he claims to have received a message. The rest of the Avengers urge Ant-Man to get out of the way, but instead, he offers to replace the hostages himself. King Cobra is, however, convinced that the Avengers are lying, so he attempts to attack Ant-Man. Thankfully, Hawkeye saves him but sustains an injury while doing so. King Cobra then orders his men to attack them. After what seemed to last like forever, the Avengers individually take down the Society members who quickly escape thanks to Ant-Man, who scared them off. This gets the others angry and they confront Ant-Man about letting them get away, but Ant-Man shrinks down and tells everyone that he quits. At the Avengers base, Ant-Man, now as Hank, packs up his belongings as he prepares to leave. He informs Ultron that he never wanted a life of violence, and that humanity could be failing as a species. Ultron agrees with him that humanity is indeed greatly flawed, and that observations have shown that humans possess violent and chaotic tendencies that cannot be overcome. Meanwhile, Iron Man, now as Tony, tries to convince Hawkeye to get treated for his wounds, or even let Jane Foster tend to them, but Hawkeye refuses, saying he's fine. Thor then contemplates Hawkeye as having the spirit of a true warrior. Tony agrees that Hawkeye is indeed something and gets back to find out information on the Serpent Society. Wasp then interrupts him, saying that they can't let Hank leave like that. She tries to convince him to talk to Hank so he can change his mind, but Tony tells her that Hank is an adult, so he can be forced to stay. However, Wasp argues that Hank is a vital member of the Avengers. Tony then tells her that she was the only reason Hank joined the Avengers in the first place, and being a pacifist and scientist, Hank never liked the superhero idea to begin with. Seeing that this isn't taking them anywhere, Wasp leaves, saying she'll talk to Hank herself. Tony then recalls what King Cobra had said about receiving a message from Madam Viper, so he wonders who must have sent it. While he is at it, Thor tells him that he has been banned from his homeland Asgard, and so he's unable to break the barrier between Earth and Asgard. He asks if there is a way for him to return there with help from Tony's technology. Tony finds it amusing, and promises to help. But the two are immediately interrupted by Hulk and Black Panther, who have apprehended Red Ghost and his super apes. Black Panther then reports to Tony that they intercepted Red Ghost and his apes while they were trying to attack the Fantastic Four, who were unfortunately not home at the time. He also points out that Red Ghost claims to have received schematics and security codes of the Baxter Building from an anonymous source. Meanwhile, Wasp is trying to convince Hank to remain a member of the Avengers, but Hank refuses to listen to her as his mind is already made up. He wants to believe that there are better ways to help people. Ways that do not involve violence. Wasp tries to talk but is suddenly uncomfortable about the way Ultron is now staring at her. She tells Hank about it, but he tells her not to worry because the robot was only designed to help criminals rehabilitate. Hank then sparks at her that she seems to enjoy the violence too. Seeing as she's unable to talk sense into him, she leaves him alone. He then tells Ultron that he's the only one who understands this, but Ultron attacks him without warning. Tony finally traces the transmission Red Ghost had received to the Avengers base, but suddenly, the whole system malfunctions. Back in Hank's lab, as Wasp leaves, she sees a flash of light and hears a loud thud from behind. She then rushes back to check up on Hank, only to be kidnapped by Ultron. Meanwhile, Tony connects his armor to the base to try and stabilize the issues. But his armor goes against his command and starts to attack Thor. He tries to warn Thor that he is not in control of his armor, but his voice is shut down and he keeps attacking Thor against his will. Meanwhile, Hulk and Black Panther are busy loading the prisoners into a Quinjet. Suddenly, the lights start to blink, and Hulk claims it's cheap light. However, Black Panther believes they are under attack. Hulk tells him that no one is dumb enough to attack them, and enters to drop some of the prisoners, and suddenly, the Quinjet blasts off into space with Hulk inside of it. On the other hand, another Quinjet starts to attack Black Panther. While this is happening, Captain America and Jane are trying to convince Hawkeye to get treated when all of a sudden, security systems are disengaged and the trio gets attacked by the security system in the room. They try to fight it off while protecting Jane until Hawkeye suggests that there has to be a general power supply. Captain America then uses his shield to destroy the power source, granting them their freedom. Somewhere in the base, Ultron is seen with Wasp in his custody. She tries to shut him down but is unable to, so she is forced to resort to a friendly confrontation. Ultron claims he's helping humanity by eliminating chaos and bringing peace. However, he also claims that his programming doesn't allow him to hurt Wasp, so he's trying to correct the flaw. Tony, now as Iron Man, is unable to gain access to the systems, or even speak as his communications are shut down. He and Thor continue to fight until it eventually takes them outside, where Tony temporarily gains access to the system and asks Thor to hit him with all he's got to enable him to disengage from the armor. Meanwhile, Hawkeye, Black Panther, and Captain America rush to the control room to find out what's going on between Thor and Iron Man. Black Panther then informs them that Hulk got shot into space. They finally regroup and head to the location with Ultron and Wasp. Meanwhile, Ultron explains to Wasp that he was behind the anonymous messages received by King Cobra and the Red Ghost in an attempt to distract the Avengers while he upgrades his programming and weapons. Thor tries to attack Ultron, but is immediately eliminated before their eyes. He gets shot by Ultron, seemingly vaporized by the blast and leaving only his hammer. Tony then goes to revive Hank and inform him about what's happening. Hank believes that some of Ultron's security measures are what's at play. But when Tony informs him that Thor is gone, Hank asks for Ultron's location. Meanwhile, the Avengers are forced to engage in a fruitless battle against Ultron. Ultron mocks them for their incapability and inability to defeat him, saying he already studied them and knew their every move. Wasp then recalls that Ultron knows nothing about her, so she escapes the force field and crushes Ultron, but almost immediately, she shrinks back down. Anyway, she still stands in Ultron's way as he's about to attack Hawkeye. She tells him that this isn't what Hank would want since he originally programmed Ultron not to hurt her, and that should mean something to him. However, Ultron is unfazed by her attempt to persuade him to change and tells her that, just like humans, his creator is flawed, and that he doesn't need to hurt her in order to stop her. He then attacks the duo, and they immediately rush out of the way. Captain America throws his shield at Ultron, but he catches the shield and scans it, saying that he intends to eliminate humanity to achieve peace, and that he will soon become unstoppable. In space, the Quinjet that has Hulk in it explodes, but Hulk and the Super Apes containment he's carrying remain completely unharmed. Hulk then leaps back into Earth's atmosphere. Meanwhile, as the Avengers battle Ultron, Captain America is taken down. But before Ultron can eliminate him, Wasp jumps in to protect him. Knowing fully well that Ultron cannot hurt her, Hank then finally shows up and urges Ultron to stop. He then enables a shutdown sequence for Ultron with the code word Synthezoid. Ultron then shuts down, but almost immediately reactivates, claiming that the code word had been denied, and that his programming has evolved beyond Hank's commands. Hank then asks Ultron why he's doing this, so Ultron tells him that he's doing what Hank could not do. To him, he's doing what's necessary to bring the peace that Hank so desires. Hank attempts to talk it out, but is interrupted by Wasp, who reminds him that they can't talk Ultron out of it, especially after what he did to Thor. Just then, Tony attacks wearing his very first armor, the Mark I armor, and the only suit without computers or any high tech. Hank also joins the fight and is surprised to see Hulk crashing in from the sky. Hulk then asks Hank for something to smash, and Hank tells him that Ultron's power core is in his chest. Hulk then smiles as he jumps in to attack Ultron. Ultron fires a beam at Hulk with the hopes of eliminating him the way he eliminated Thor. But Hulk is way too strong for the beam to affect him, so he overcomes the beam and grabs Ultron before ripping him in two. He flings Ultron away, and he lands right in front of Hank, who shrinks down and rips out the power core in Ultron's chest. Filled with grief and confusion, Hank asks how this could have happened. Tony then tells him to go through Ultron's remaining shells and programming and destroy everything. Hank agrees, but he claims that it won't change the fact that he was the one that gave Ultron the ability that led to Thor's demise. However, it is revealed that Thor is not dead, and he completely survived. He wakes up in a peaceful, beautiful field with an enchantress, who tells him that everything that is happening will take care of itself, and that now they are together, that's all that matters. Back at the base, Hank is busy destroying all the disks that contain Ultron's files and programming when he stops to look at the Section 5 disk, with distraught all over his face. He tosses the disk anyway and slumps back on his seat with regret. But unknown to him, Ultron 6 has already completed an upload of his programming and activated a new Ultron. The end. Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos, and please make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time.